Hello. Today we'll talk about Unit 2 of the AP Government exam. Now, Unit 2 is the most heavily weighted unit, especially for the multiple choice questions. It's about 25 to 36% of your multiple choice questions will come from Unit 2. And it is also the longest unit in the AP Government and Politics course. What does it cover? So it covers three main branches of government, which is the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And then the fourth chapter is about the federal bureaucracy. In order to do well, of course, you need to know the Constitution well, and also within the Constitution, the stipulated or explained enumerated powers of all the branches of government. So today I'll briefly talk about the legislative branch. So the powers and organization of the legislative branch is covered in Article 1 of the US Constitution. Most importantly, Article 1, Section 8 lists the enumerated powers of Congress. And you need to know this term. Enumerated powers are the powers clearly listed in Article 1, Section 8. There are about 27 functions and powers of the legislature that are listed. Now, there is no doubt within the Constitution that the legislature is the most powerful branch of government because it makes the laws. Other things that we need to know is the term bicameral legislature. That means that the US legislature has two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives has 435 members, and they are elected for a 2-year term. Now, the years are staggered, so that means every 2 years, certain number of members are up for election. The districts are smaller, so the way the House is structured is it is closer to the people. So the House of Representatives members are more attuned to what their constituents want, and they are more in touch with them. The Senate, on the other hand, has 100 senators. Each state gets 2 senators, and they are both state senators. The Senate was intentionally organized to be a more collegial institution, right? The framers originally imagined it as this council, right? But eventually, the senators also become those who are directly elected. Now, the first important thing that we need to know is the distinction between the enumerated powers of the House, let's say, and the implied powers. There will be a question about this. So the enumerated powers are the powers that are listed, as I mentioned, in Article 1, Section 8. The implied powers are governed by, first of all, this idea that if to accomplish an enumerated function, the legislature needs to do something, then that is the implied power granted to the legislature. The famous court case, which is included in the course that sets the precedence for the implied power, was McClock versus Maryland, right? In which the legislature had created a bank in Maryland. The state of Maryland wanted to tax it. McClock was a teller. He refused to pay the tax, and eventually the Supreme Court decided that since it is enumerated that Congress will collect taxes and distribute them, then it can be surmised from that. It implies that they can create a bank. So that's the distinction between enumerated powers and the implied powers. Now, Congress has another function, which is the congressional oversight. That's primarily oversight over functions of the functionaries of the executive, even the president, but also the bureaucracy, and that they do through public hearings or closed-door hearings. Just to keep in mind, how does Congress work, right? So Congress has some standing committees, some subcommittees, and some ad hoc committees. You can look up the kinds of committees, but it works through committees. So what happens, of course, first of all, there is a majority party and there is a minority party. The majority party elects one member as the Speaker of the House, and then there is always a minority leader. Pretty much most of the legislation is first introduced within the committee. Only a sitting member can introduce legislation, and committees are evenly divided, but with the majority party having one or two more votes. So committee chairs then discuss within the committee the possibilities of a bill and everything else. And then if it is voted, the bill can then be sent to the floor of the House. Even there, it is not assured that it will be debated upon and voted upon because the Speaker has to decide on it. While Constitution lays down some rules, most of the House functions are run by the rules made by the House, which is the Rules Committee. But most of the times, someone can move a motion to dispense with the rules, and if they have sufficient votes, they can actually move a legislation without the required debate. Another important thing to keep in mind about the House functioning is that the amount of time that any given member can use is fixed. It's usually 1 hour, but sometimes under the rules it can be 40 minutes. But if the majority party has the numbers and they decide they can dispense with the rules, then most of the times the majority will have 1 hour, the leading member who's leading the legislation, and the minority will have 1 hour, and then those members kind of designate the time. If you have watched C-SPAN, sometimes, when a member makes a statement and then they say, I concede the rest of my time, that time goes back to the 1 hour pool. So overall, the debate is limited in the House. Another thing to keep in mind is that let's say a bill is introduced, it goes to the committee moves it forward, but the Speaker doesn't want to introduce it. Do the members have some recourse? And for that, you need to know the discharge petition. Now, a discharge petition needs 218 votes, but any member can move it in the House. If they get 218 members to sign off on it, then it becomes mandatory for the Speaker to introduce the bill in the House for debate and eventual passage. If you have been aware of what's been happening in the Congress lately, the Epstein Files Law Act that was passed by both houses of Congress was forced upon the Speaker because the discharge petition was able to get 218 votes to introduce the bill. Now, a few other things to keep in mind about the House and its functionings are certain terms. One of the most important terms is gerrymandering. You can look up the history of it, but that is when a district is created after a census to support one party over the other. That is called political gerrymandering. Log rolling is another practice in which members trade their votes. Like I say, I will vote on your bill if you vote on my bill. Pork barrel spending is another thing in the House where members try to write in sometimes unrelated legislations, things that go to their districts. So these are some of the terms that we need to remember. A few other things that we need to keep in mind about the House and its powers is that the House initiates all the budget legislations. All the financial legislation about the budget comes from the House first. Okay, that's an important thing. Then, if the president is being impeached, the impeachment is held in the House. Okay, House impeaches. Senate is the one that holds the trial after the House has impeached a president. And that trial is presided by the Chief Justice of United States. So this distinction is, keep it clear in your head. The House impeaches, but the Senate is the one that actually holds the trial. Now, the House doesn't have the filibuster. The Senate has the filibuster. What is a filibuster? That is that if the majority party doesn't have 60 votes to pass a bill, the minority can basically say, we will continuously keep talking about the bill and delay it, right? So because in the Senate, there is no limit to how long a senator can speak on a bill. To break a filibuster, what you need is 60 votes. If you have 60 votes, that is called cloture. That means you can close the debate and move to voting on a legislature, but only the Senate has the filibuster because there is no limit on how long can senators speak. Also, keep in mind that it's the Senate that approves the presidential nominations of Supreme Court justices, other justices, and also it's the Senate that approves or disapproves the cabinet positions that the president nominates for his or her or their cabinet. These are some of the distinctions to keep in mind. Now, so since this is the most important unit in the course, this brief conversation, of course, doesn't do justice to it. But if you read up on it, just be sure that you also understand like the process of how a bill is made, right? The bill is introduced by a member, it goes to the committee votes on it, then it comes back to the House. Then based on what the House Rules Committee has decided, it either goes to vote or doesn't go to vote. A bill is usually passed by a simple majority. Then it goes to the Senate. If the Senate passes the bill just as it is, then it goes to the president, right? Now, if the Senate makes changes to the bill, then it must come back to the House. The House will then sit and vote on it and send it back to the Senate. After both the House and Senate have decided what is in the bill, that bill goes to the president. Now, the president have three possible options. The president can sign the bill and it becomes law. The president can veto a bill and send it back, and then the House and Senate have to override that veto. So to override a veto, the House and Senate need 2/3 majority of the members. If they can do that, then they don't require the presidential signatures. Now, the president can also sometimes use what is called a pocket veto. It needs to have crucial timings. The president can refuse to sign a bill, but if the Congress, House, and Senate are on recess, then after 10 days, the bill will die. But if the Congress and House are in session and the president doesn't sign a bill, after 10 days, it becomes law. So these are some of the things to keep in mind as you progress into this unit. And these are some of my thoughts on the legislature, the first chapter in this unit. I hope it's useful to you. Now, for those of you watching this on YouTube, please keep in mind that these lectures are connected to my AP Gov app. And if you're curious about it, the link to the app is in the description. Thank you, and peace and love.